Hey y'all, it's Casey, and today we're gonna do a deep release using some therapy balls to get into our lower backs and into our glutes. You will need 2 therapy balls if you're gonna do the first posture, but otherwise, if all you have is 1, we can make do because the rest of what we're doing is only gonna need 1. If you do have 2, you will need them side by side, tennis ball, lacrosse ball, whatever you got. Okay, so just to kind of give you an understanding of what we're going to be focusing on, I'm going to give you a quick visual because we'll be spending the remainder of the class from our backs. So just to make sure you can see nice and clearly, our focus today, we're going to kind of start off by focusing in the sacrum area, that sacral area at the base of your spine, right on the back of your hips, okay? So we'll use this in the beginning when we'll use both of our therapy balls, and then after that, when we start to just use one, we'll start to work into the outer glute area, and then we'll start to work up towards the hips, but still staying in the glutes, and then start to work our way in. After that, we'll move up into the lower quadrants of the lower back, beneath the ribs, but ahead of, above the hip line. So we'll focus into all of these different areas. Let's go ahead and get started off on our backs. You're gonna take both of your therapy balls with you, or once again, if all you have is 1, you can skip this part and just go to the next pose. So you're gonna lift the hips away from the ground, bridging the hips up, and then take the therapy balls, so 1 is to either side of your spine, and just bring your sacrum, that sacral area, down onto the therapy balls. So by doing this, you should never feel any kind of pressure or pushing into the spine itself. We're to either side so the spine can kind of relax down into this space. And if you need to readjust, readjust. Now, if this creates any pinching, you can come out of this and just lay flat on your back. We're going to use this to establish some deep breathing, and we'll play with a little bit of pelvic movement. So let's exhale and let all of your breath out. And then through your nose, start to take a deep breath in and just fill up as much as you can. This will be our first clearing of the breath. So once you reach the top, hold it briefly. And then open your mouth and exhale, let it all the way out. Nice. Again, slow breath in. Really pick up any tension, residual stress, lingering in the body. Lift it all the way to the top of your breath, holding it here. And big sigh out through your mouth. Now we're going to keep the breath through the nose, through both parts. So slow breath in, gradually filling up, expanding from the bottom all the way up to the top. Briefly pause. And then keep the breath through the nose, just as slowly as you breathed in. Exhale, breathe out. Empty out from the top, all the way back down to the bottom. Go ahead and take one more of those completely on your own here. Find your own pace and rhythm. And then without your breath being that full capacity where it feels forced or strained, I want you to just take some of that effort out. Allow the breath to feel a little more relaxed, yet really full and expansive. Now, from here, you can hold on to the therapy balls if you would like, okay? You also have the option of just taking hands to ground for stability or repositioning the balls at any time. You're gonna lift the knees up towards the chest or up, lifting the feet away from the ground, okay? And then from here, you can kind of shimmy the hips side to side and just kind of feel into the little divots in the back of the pelvis. Okay, so right now we're kind of at a tipping point. When we're at the sacrum, we're really close to the lower back, but we're also really close towards the tail. So we're gonna kind of play with that pelvic tilt a little bit. So first, just imagine your knees pulling towards your chest and really rounding your lower back as you tuck your tail under. And you may even feel like the therapy balls might roll out. I want you to make sure that they stay underneath you, but you'll feel it kind of pressing into that lower back area. Okay, and then you're gonna slowly lift the knees up. And then once the knees come up over the therapy balls, you can kind of feel your body weight sink forward, maybe even allowing the therapy balls to roll up into the lower back and just kind of let your hips hang. And then slowly lift the knees back in towards the chest, start to curl and round your lower back, tuck the tail. If you need to use your hands, you can also use them to pull in. And then the knees start to pull away as they point up. Feel your lower back roll open. One more round here. Knees to chest, curl the tail, round that lower back. And then begin to extend the lower back as the knees peel away, feeling the lower back open as the hips sink towards the floor. Nice. Now go ahead and just set both feet down to the ground. You're going to lift the hips, remove the therapy balls, and just let your hips rest flat. And once you're here, maybe sway your knees side to side. Just kind of loosen up that lower back space. Okay, so now that we've focused on that sacrum area, okay, we're going to move down into the outer hip and glute area. So way into that outer side. And remember, we're going to start there and gradually work our way up and towards the top and in towards the center. Okay, we're just going to kind of play with that almost like a C. Okay, let's start by crossing left ankle over the right thigh. So you're creating this kind of figure 4 shape, which adds an external rotation in the hip, and it'll help us get even deeper into that outer hip. Okay, you can press to the right foot or just let your hips tip to the right side. And then let yourself melt down or up onto the therapy ball. You just need one, but you can keep them together if you have them that way. Okay, and then once you're up on that therapy ball, I want you to place it so it's on that outer hip. And then you're gonna let your legs tip to that left side. So you feel that full weight just kind of hanging down on the outer glutes. And then just close your eyes. If you're not quite there, you want to play a little bit. Maybe you reposition it to be a little bit more on the outside, a little more lateral. Maybe you bring it down a little deeper. You'll know because you'll feel a lot of tension. You'll feel a lot of sensation. And when you do, I want you to relax the muscles in your face. Give yourself about 5 slow breaths. Take your time. Focus on the steadiness of the breath. Notice the heaviness. Let gravity weigh you down. Let's take one more breath in this position. So right now we're on that outside of the glute, okay? You can let the legs tip to center. You're just gonna lift the hips and roll it up a little higher up the glute. So it's at the top of your glute, okay? And then same thing, let your legs kind of tip over to the left and way down. If you don't feel anything, lift it up, reposition, try again. So now you're just up a little bit higher. You might wanna stay a little bit more on the outside, and then the next one we'll move it in just a little bit more. So once you're here, same thing, just let yourself sink in. You can play with it a little bit, make those micro adjustments. And then once you feel it, slow your breath down. We're just gonna take 4 deep breaths here. Try to breathe deeply through your entire torso each time, exaggerating that nice, expansive breath until it feels more natural. Let's take one more breath here. If your legs tipped a lot to the side, bring them to center. You're gonna lift the hips and just take the therapy ball so it's still at the top of the glutes, but bring it in just a little bit closer towards the sacrum or towards the tail, towards the inside, the midline. Okay, and then just same thing. You can play with letting the hips tilt a little to the side, maybe reposition. We're just kind of in that top meaty chunk. And then once you're there, let's just give ourselves 3 slow, deep breaths. Feel all the sensation down the leg. Sometimes you can feel it all the way down into your foot. Letting it melt open all the way down into the lower back. 1 more deep breath. Now to come out of this, you're just gonna let your legs tip all the way over to the right side until you roll off the therapy ball, remove it. Let your hips roll to center and then uncross your legs. Set the feet to the ground and just move the knees around a little bit, loosen up that space. Release and relax, easing through the tension. Okay, now we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So when you're ready, you can cross your right ankle over the top of the left thigh and either just lift the hips up and place the therapy ball on that outer right side of your glute, or let your legs tip to the left, place the therapy ball, and then let yourself roll up onto it. Okay, either approach is just fine, whatever's most convenient in your body, choose that. So once your legs are up and you're supported over that therapy ball, let the legs tip a little to the right side. And same thing, if you don't feel the sensation right away, just reposition it and then settle back in. Play a bit lower on that outer glute since we will eventually be working our way up higher. Okay, so once again, when you find that little sweet spot, okay, or like I like to say, not so sweet spot, focus on your breath. Slow the breath down. It can be so easy to hold the breath, to clench, to feel tension in our face. We refer the pain or we refer that tension to other areas and try to just relax. Try to ease everything else. Use only what's needed here. And since we've already been here for a little bit, let's take 3 more breaths. Heavy. Let yourself surrender with gravity. Okay, if the legs tip to the right, bring them back to center. You're gonna lift the hips. You're gonna keep it towards the outside, but start to roll it up towards the top of the glute. And then find a nice little meaty spot there and let yourself sink into it. Maybe let the legs tip to the right side. Reposition as needed. Okay, same thing. You're just kind of on the search for a little bit of tension, feeling into the tissues in your body, helping to kind of target those little balls of tension. And then once you find it and you settle in, let's go ahead and take 4 slow and intentional breaths. Let your intention be just melting through and being present with the sensation. One more breath. Okay, same thing. If the legs are over to the right, bring them back to center just to lift the hips up. You're gonna keep it on the top of the glute, but just bring it in a little bit closer towards the midline. And then same thing, just let your hips sink heavy, play with the positioning, adjust. And then once you find it, heavy, full surrender, full focus on breath and relaxing what's not needed. 3 deep breaths. Really focus on how much the body can expand with each breath. And being mindful as you breathe out to release every last drop of tension. Let's take 1 more here. If the legs did tip to the side, bring them to center, and then all the way over to the left side until you roll off the therapy ball. Remove it from underneath you and just set your right foot back down to the ground and sway your knees from side to side. Whoo-wee. Okay, so we got the focus into the sacrum. We got the focus into the outer glutes all the way up and in. Okay, we got the glutes pretty good in those areas. And now we're gonna focus on the lower back. So we're gonna start on this left side. What you're gonna do is same options. You can either let your body kind of tip over to the right, place the therapy ball. Now, we're gonna do 3 different sections here, and I'll kind of show you the sections. We're playing with the space between the ribs and the hip. And within this space, we're gonna start right below the ribs, okay? And as we start right below the ribs, we're gonna start here by kind of playing a little bit with the placement. Specifically, we're gonna play a little bit from the inside, and we're gonna work our way out. So we're gonna start from the inside of the ribs, or from the bottom of the ribs. Then we're gonna go to the center point, and then we'll work out towards the hip point laterally as we get closer down into the hips, okay? So you can come into it by either lifting and placing your therapy ball, or let your legs tip over to the right side, place it, and then roll back up onto it. So once again, we're starting a little bit closer to the midline, right underneath your rib cage. And then just let yourself kind of sink down into this space. Okay, so once you find it, you'll definitely know you might have to play around a little bit. It takes a little bit of exploration to find that space. Okay, so we're moving in towards the midline, right underneath the ribs, and letting your hips start to melt down towards the ground. Now, your knees can stay pointing up. They can kind of tip a little over to that left side. Maybe it feels good to kind of collapse the legs or extend legs out. It's entirely up to you. Okay, the more you feel into your body to find the right sensation that's appropriate for you, the better, okay? Let it be yours. Once you find it, let's take 5 slow breaths. Fill up your compartments, take your time. If you feel the sensation kind of travels or moves slightly, find the sensation. Just continue to explore and move into that depth. Let's take one more breath here. Okay, if the legs moved, bring them back to center. You're gonna lift the hips up and you're gonna place the therapy ball now so it's kind of in the center point of that lower left side. So think just that center point. It's halfway in and halfway between the ribs and the hips. And then just let yourself sink down into that center. And as you do, once again, you're seeking that little bit of tension. You're feeling into, right now, your QL. So you're helping to release those lower back muscles, those really deep core-related low back muscles. And as you sink in, you have the same options, knees up, maybe angle them, play with it a little bit, let it be your own. And then 4 deep breaths from here. Let yourself fully let go. This one can be really tight. All these little variations can be super tight and carry a lot of tension. So be patient, be kind, and please focus on your breathing. Slow it down. One last breath here. Okay, and then knees back to center if they adjusted. We're gonna do one last movement. Hips up. You're gonna take the therapy ball so it's towards the outside, the left side or lateral side, and closer down towards the hip. And then you're gonna once again sink down, knees can tilt, maybe they extend, play with it. readjust, do what you need to do. We're going to take 3 deep breaths once you find that sweet spot. I'll start counting from here, but please just take your time. You might notice that one of these 3 areas might felt more tight or more tense than the others. Okay, just be aware of where that tension is so we can come back to it and start to notice that progress over time. Last deep breath here. Okay, knees come to center and then just roll off to the right side with the knees until you come off your therapy ball. Remove it out from underneath you and just go ahead and sway the knees or move however you'd like here for a couple breaths. Now, this exploring through the body is really teaching us how to be more intuitive with our movements, more intentional with these movements, and that way we can accommodate our bodies better in practice once we get to know ourselves a little bit more. Self-observation. Okay, let's do the other side. We're gonna start just the same, going through the same section. So lift the hips up. You're gonna start by taking the therapy ball underneath the ribs, so towards the top of that lower back space. And then you're gonna take it towards the inside, towards the spine, but never on the spine, right to the inside in that nice little pocket. And then once you find it, let yourself sink down through the hips, heavy. Knees can adjust, play with the placement here. Let them angle. Once you feel that release, give yourself 5 slow breaths. Sometimes you can feel little tingles. Just make sure that you're focusing on the breath and that nothing is going numb or losing sensation. We want to feel the sensation and we want to slowly start to ease the sensation. No numbness. Relax your face. Slow everything down. Two more deep and intentional breaths. All right, so if you adjusted your knees, bring them back to center. Lift the hips, and now you're gonna take the therapy ball and bring it into that center point, right into the center, between the ribs and the hips, and between the spine and that outer right side. And then just start to sink the hips down. Maybe let the knees tip a little bit, play with it, feel into it. Try to stay pretty centralized in that area. We don't want to drift too much. But I still want you to find what you're looking for. Once you do, give yourself 4 deep breaths. Soften all the muscles throughout your face. One more deep breath. Knees return to center. Lift the hips. Take the therapy ball down towards the hip, right above the hip, and towards the outside, that right side. And then let the hips sink heavy. Play with it. Knees can adjust. Find that nice lateral sensation, that outer edge. You can come in a little bit. It doesn't have to be completely on the side. Feel into it. Should be around that top of that hip point. Maybe in, just centered, a little dimple. And then just melt in 3 deep breaths. One more here. And then as the knees come to center, let them sweep all the way to the left side. Remove the therapy balls. Hug the knees to your chest and just rock side to side. You're going to roll over to either side, fetal position, and then use your top hand to press all the way up. Comfortable seat here, spine up nice and tall, hands to heart center. Take a deep breath in, and then just open your mouth and let it out. Thank you so much for letting me be your guide. Namaste. Thanks y'all so much. Hopefully your lower backs are feeling phenomenal right now. I always find that I can get a bigger release into my lower back when I start to focus on my glutes, okay? But know that there could be a lot of different reasons why. You might need to work into your mid back, maybe into the front of the hip flexors. So many different things that help to alleviate that space. But let me know in the comments how you liked it. Share with someone in need. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and I will see y'all soon. Thanks so much.